Hello and welcome to another Tech Campus Coffee live webinar. This is an opportunity for you to learn about career paths at Tech directly from professionals in your field.
We'll be speaking to technical representatives from a variety of fields at Tech, and they'll share why they enjoy what they do.
Participants also have a chance to directly ask speakers and recruiters questions and get a good understanding of why Tech is a great place to work, as well as where your strengths, talents, and learning opportunities lie. All right, so let's introduce our guests here. So our first guest is Carl Diederichs. He's a senior geotechnical engineer at Highland Valley Copper. He's got a geological engineering degree from UBC. And our other guest is Evan Hay. He's a geologist in training at Line Creek Operations, and he has a geology or science degree at the University of Calgary. So, without further ado, let's start. What's our first question for them, Stacy?
Sure. I think a good place to start is just maybe to tell us a little bit. So maybe we'll start with you, Carl, because I think we haven't seen Evan's picture come up yet. But Carl, if you want to maybe talk a little bit about what a geotechnical engineer does at Highland Valley Copper.
Yeah, absolutely. So maybe just a little bit about myself. I graduated as shown on the slide from UBC, from the Geological Engineering program in 2008. I had worked for Teck as a co-op student. I worked, at the time, it was the Fording Coal Company in the Elk Valley, which is now Teck Coal. But I started at Highland Valley in 2008. So I've worked for Teck for 12 years at both Highland Valley and Fording River since I graduated. I'm in charge of geotechnical engineering, drill and blast at HVC. So my role, I've got 6 or 7 employees, and we cover geotechnical design and monitoring for the open pits and the active mining operation, the waste dumps, and then drill and blast optimization, which is really recently where we're tying into the Race 21 program and some of the exciting work that's being done as part of the program there. So my day-to-day job could be anything from being out in the pit and inspecting the high wall. Here's a couple of pictures of our 2 active pits at Highland Valley right now. So we're mining in the Valley Pit and the Lornex Pit. The Valley Pit is the biggest of our 2, and it spans approximately 3 kilometers wide and about 1,000 meters deep from top to bottom. And then our second pit is Lornex Pit, and it's a little bit smaller. It's probably 2 kilometers long and 600 or 700 meters deep, but pretty sizable pits. And the Valley Pit is definitely a world-class size pit in hard rock. A lot of the work on site, all our designs are using the observational approach framework. So, what you might have seen in school, you drill, you try to figure out what the parameters are that you use in your design. You come up with your designs, and as you implement the designs, a big piece of the job is monitoring and determining if the designs are performing as expected, and then feeding that back into the loop and either confirming that your designs are adequate or being able to change your designs to reflect what you're actually seeing in the field. Or sometimes, conditions are better than expected, so you might be able to steepen a pit wall to get extra ore release out of a pit, for example.
Nice. Let's. I've got a question's already come in, but let's maybe introduce Evan first, and then we can start jumping into some of these questions.
All right, so my name's Evan. I started with Teck in 2017 after graduating from the University of Calgary in 2016. I first started up at Cardinal River Operations, which is in the process of closing right now. That was up near Hinton, Alberta. Now I'm down at our Line Creek Operations, which is one of the 4 Teck coal mines in the Elk Valley. Line Creek is just about 20 kilometers north of Sparwood, BC. And we mine the Elk Valley coal field, which is within the Mist Mountain Formation. So what I do at Teck right now, I'm a GIT, and most of our GITs start in what's called the coal quality technician role. And basically what we do is we are the link between the geology department, the plant, and mine operations. So just making sure that our products are on spec. We do a lot of sampling. we're a metallurgical coal mine, which means we produce steel making coal. And yeah, that's about it for me.
Great,
Awesome.
thanks, Evan. Well, it looks like we start off with an interesting question. So I'll just read it out, and either one of you can tackle this one. So, what is our strategy, what is our strategy going forward with safeguarding tailings dams from failures such as Mount Poly, and I'm going to pronounce these terribly, but Brumadinho and Fayao, I guess.
I guess I can jump in, and my primary role is with the mining operations, so I'm less involved with the tailings, but I'll just make a couple of comments that I think I can. These failures, and there's a couple of them specifically that could really be tied back to bad engineering. And I think going forward, there's a couple of things the industry has to grapple with as far as engineering designs for dams, but specifically for Teck. Teck is a member of ICMM and has been working as part of the industry group on the new ICMM global standards for tailings management, and that's just being finalized and rolled out within the company, and that's going to provide a framework for tailings management, because obviously these types of incidents are unacceptable to anybody, to the public, to the industry, and we can't have anything like that happen with any of our operations. But if you want more information, you can Google ICMM Global Tailings Standard, and you'll be able to pull information up on the internet.
That'd be great. Yeah, Rachel, maybe we'll grab that link in a bit, and we can get that up there for people. Thanks, Carl. Other questions from students? Otherwise, we've got a few questions that we could turn to. All right, I see another one here. I was looking through the Teck website and saw that there's a commitment to sustainability. I was just wondering what kind of positions are available for Indigenous EITs. Stacy, maybe that's more our territory.
Sure. Yeah, I can speak to it now. I can speak to it later. But to give you a quick idea, we post our EITs on our website. So I guess your best bet is to keep an eye on the Teck website. We don't do it like we don't hire new grads or EITs at certain times of the year. It's kind of a ongoing as needed basis. So your best bet is set yourself up for job alerts in the field that you're interested in and you've studied, and then certainly what we would do is they could come up throughout the year, but just set yourself up on job alerts on our website and then apply that way. And certainly likely we have EITs in all the different various disciplines come up fairly frequently. So that's your best bet.
Great. Yeah, I think so. Let's talk a bit about what does a co-op student position look like? At HVC or at Line Creek? I don't know, Carl or Evan, either one of you.
I'll go ahead here. So co-op positions in the geology department at Line Creek, they are pretty heavily involved. They get fully trained up to be coal quality technicians, so they're able to cover when one of us is off, or if we have a sick day or something. They also overlook a bunch of projects. So we got a new geophysical logging truck this year, and our co-op student basically oversaw the whole transition from our old one to the new one. When it showed up, they unboxed it, they kind of set it up, and they figured out how to use it. So they were out in the pits all the time doing that. They help out just when any one of our geologists need help. So yeah, they're pretty involved, and they're all within all of our departments in engineering. We do train all of our co-ops up for the technician roles just so that they're able to cover.
Great. And Carl?
Similar comments to Evan. I think my feeling on co-op employment is while we hire you to help us out with some jobs during your term, I think it's a two-way street, and we try to give back in terms of a rich co-op experience. So we try to involve them as much as we can in work that's going on. For example, we've got one co-op student who's leading a project right now to evaluate our blast clearance distances, and he is managing a project with a consultant to evaluate, how far do we have to move people and equipment away from different types of blasts to ensure everybody's safe. So really, topical work and work that they can take with them for the rest of their careers. It's not just pushing paper around desks. We'll make sure that you have an engaging experience.
That's great to hear. Well, we have actually a co-op student here with us today that just finished her term just in August. So Finn, if you're on the line, would you mind speaking a little bit to your co-op experience and maybe just give us some insight from the student perspective?
Sure. So I was there from September to this last September before to this last September. And I worked mostly in geotech monitoring, so our safe work procedures, our instrumentation, and some looking at what some just performance management, so seeing whether or not our pits were acting as they were expected to, kind of. And I also got to do some stability analysis. I found that I need help for a longer period of time. But the one thing that I did that I was just really excited to do, I got to work, so we install prisms on our pit walls for monitoring, and I got to work as a ground crew for that,
awesome.
for the helicopter as it installed the prism. So that was a really fun job. On terms of a larger project, I got to do a stability analysis report for one of our spoils that was changing. So
nice. That's awesome. And I guess we might as well. I wouldn't be fair if I didn't say what's the most challenging part as a student coming on board. Then, just to give students an idea.
Well, I mean, this year it was COVID, as with I think everyone else everywhere. So that was probably the most challenging. Otherwise, you really have to you really need to work, or not work on, but you'll really make use of your time management skills, I would say, when you get onto the job. Yeah. Learning how to, well, it depends on, some co-ops get one project which they run with the whole time, and then some people get a bunch of different projects that they get to juggle, so it depends on exactly which co-op position you're in, but yeah, that's what I found I had to really make use of the most.
That's awesome. No, I tell students all the time, I'm like, you never have a dull moment around here, that's for sure. You're going to be busy. I have a couple. Thanks, Finn, so much for joining in. I appreciate you. I know I gave you a bit of a short notice, so I appreciate you jumping on. And if there's any questions for Finn too, we can certainly keep her on the line, and she can answer some as we're chatting here. There's one question here in the chat. How about we go to the
Yeah, so as far as hydrogeology, not really within my department. I know the environment department and kind of the mid to long range planning department has more of that. So they do have co-op students, but I can't really speak to any of that.
That's okay. I can add to that too, though. For our water quality management group, so we have a whole team that supports our operations surrounding water quality, and they hire quite a few students, and we have had students working in modeling, groundwater modeling for sure. So those do come up. I don't actually have any for the upcoming January term, but they come up every so often. So I think I just filled them last term, and so they're about 8-month terms. So likely the upcoming May term, we'll see some positions come up in that field. For that term. So to add to that, Misaki, if I should keep on going, I've got a couple of questions. Carl, I know you highlighted a little bit about some Race 21 technologies coming through in your department. I guess, can you talk to us a little bit about what that looks like, or what sort of impact, or I guess what gets you excited about the technologies that are coming down the wire for HVC?
Sure. I had a couple more pictures if we can flip them up, and I'll just maybe speak to some of the technologies that we use in our department. So technology in general, this is a good slide just to look at some of the technology that we use for slope monitoring in the mine, and pretty high tech stuff. So in the top left, there's all sorts of field instrumentation that we or our field technicians might use to measure water pressures in a piezometer, or slope deformations in an inclinometer that's drilled in the ground to see how much the ground is moving. But the two biggest tools that we use to monitor how much our pits are deforming are ground-based radar. So on the bottom, it's a picture of a ground probe radar. It uses radar technology. It can shoot all the way across the pit, so 2 or 3 kilometers. And every 10 to 15 minutes, we get a reading that shows us exactly how much each part of the pit is moved to the nearest millimeter. And that allows us to, refine our slope designs and make sure that everybody who's working in an area in that operation is safe, that we don't have a wall that's moving. And the other one is a robotic survey instrument, and same kind of thing. It can shoot across a pit, but it has to shoot at a survey prism. And that's what Finn was speaking to earlier, was as we mine and as the pit progresses, we install prisms on the high wall. And then we use these instruments to shoot those prisms so we can understand how much the high wall is moving as we develop our pit. So those are a couple of the sort of the geotech field technologies. This is a picture out of the radar. So really, really high resolution. So this is 2 kilometers away, scanning the other side of the pit. And every 10 by 10 block, it shows us to the millimeter how much that part of the open pit has moved. So pretty cool new technologies. We've got 4 of these radars, 2 in each pit. And yeah, pretty interesting, pretty good use of technology. This one is kind of our big Race 21 project in my team right now. And I'm excited about this from the perspective of bringing new technology into the mining industry. So this is about optimizing our blasting. And until recently, I would say that blasting was optimized by feel a little bit, and there's a lot of new technology that's coming out in the market. So we've got these new camera systems that mount on our shovels. They scan the muck pile, and they can tell us how big those blasted fragments are. And we're using that information, combining it with all our geoscience information to figure out what exactly is the best blast design for each area. And if we can optimize those blast designs, we can either save money in waste areas where we don't have to blast material as much, or we can put more explosives into the ground, blast the material finer so we can process it faster in our mill. So that's been a really cool use of new technology and machine learning technologies out of the computer science group to look at what variables actually impact the results. And it's a teaser. It's not the variables you might expect. So we're finding new correlations, and it's been a really interesting project.
Awesome. There's a question in the chat that relates to a previous slide. So maybe Luke, if we go back 2 slides, the question was, so is the color representative of displacement? And I believe it was from the previous slide.
Correct. So on that picture, that was a sort of a heat map scale. So from no color being next to no movement, and then the red zones are what has moved the most. But this is over approximately a year, and the scale on the right is in millimeters, so up to 700 millimeters. So if you're talking even in the high deformation areas, about 2 millimeters a day, which is quite low. We'd consider that in our background movement range.
Great. It looks like we have another question, but this one's for Evan. Did you face any challenges because you came from a geologic background rather than an engineering one, or did you feel you had advantages because of it?
Yeah, so we have our engineering department, and then within that we have a bunch of different teams. So I'm on the geology team. There's about 7 or 8 of us, and then other teams within the engineering department. We have short, mid, and long range engineer planning, environment, drill and blast, survey. So there's a whole bunch of different departments. I don't do any engineering. I just focus on geology within our geology team.
Great, maybe if I can speak to that, like as an engineer, I see them as completely different. So I wouldn't say that you'd ever be disadvantaged as a geologist. We as engineers rely heavily on the information that's provided to us from our geoscience teams, whether it's where is the mineralization, or what is the rock structure, so we can look at how the pit wall is going to stand up, or how hard is the material to know how it's going to process in our processing plant. They're both equally important and complementary.
Yeah, great points.
You like that, Evan? Probably don't hear that.
Yes. So yeah, a lot of the work we do in geology at Line Creek is with all the production drilling and everything, the geologist will figure out how much coal is in the blast we are shooting, and then that information gets passed on to the short range engineer planning. And then from there, we can figure out how much coal will be in that blast and how much we'll have for the plant. So then we can figure out how much we're selling. So yes, everyone within the engineering department does work very closely together.
Great. I know Finn mentioned one of the things that stood out for her in terms of what she really enjoyed and what working at Teck. Maybe Evan, what have you enjoyed? What keeps you working at Teck, and what made you choose to work at Teck?
Yeah, well, I just heard that Teck was a great company, and what I like about working for Teck is it's always something different every day. In mining, it's changing every single day when you go out to the pits. And what I really like about my job, and also what co-op students get to experience, is my job's 75% in the pit and the rest is in the office. So working around all that heavy equipment, machinery, you're working with operators, supervisors, a whole bunch of different people. So that's what I like about it, just being able to interact with a whole bunch of different people, get different perspectives on things. And then, yeah, just gathering all the information in the field, bringing it back to the office, and then getting to work on it. So that's what I like most about it.
Nice. How about you, Carl?
That's a good question. I think what I like about Teck is it really is a company that always wants to do the right thing. So whether it's safety or sustainability or the way they interact with their communities and employees, they're always trying to do the right thing and make sure they support the communities that they operate in, the organizations within those communities, the health and safety of their employees. And we've talked about it already, but recently with the Race 21 program as well, is investing and taking a long-term vision of where the mining industry is going. And instead, with COVID, with the way that 2020 started, it would have been really easy to say we're going to cut back and we're not going to work on any of this new development. But Teck took a long-term approach. They said, how can we integrate these new technologies in our operations? And it's been great to be part of a company that not only their employees and their communities, but also is forward-looking and is buying into all the new technologies that are coming down the pipe.
Yeah, I agree. Definitely exciting. And yeah. All right. Now, how about should we cover any? I'm not seeing any more questions. If there's any other questions, feel free to type in the chat. And like I said, if you don't have the chat feature working, feel free to use the raise the hand feature. In the meantime, maybe we can cover sort of the locations. So Carl, you've been at HEC for a bit. What's there to do? What keeps you what keeps you happy in the off I guess your time off?
Yeah, so I work at Highland Valley Copper, which is about a 45-minute drive from Kamloops. So I live in Kamloops, British Columbia, and that's approximately 3.5 hours east of Vancouver. It's a lot drier. We don't get the rain that you hear about in Vancouver. Definitely a lot of opportunities for any kind of outdoor activity. So if you like mountain biking, if you like hiking, fishing, skiing, et cetera, the list goes on. Yeah, great place to live. Big enough that it's really got everything you need, but it's not too big. Yeah, great place to live.
Yeah, nice. And Evan, same question.
Yeah, so we're down here in the Elk Valley. So most people live in either Elkford, Sparwood, or Fernie. There's a couple people that do live in Alberta in the Crow's Nest Pass. I live in Fernie, which I can't think of a better place to live. We got a world-class ski resort, just 5-minute drive down the road. I got mountain bike trails right out my back door. Elk River has world-class fly fishing. There's always something to do here. I love it.
Nice. Questions come in from Audrey. Is there anything you wish you knew when you were applying or starting out? I don't know, maybe we'll go Evan for this one.
Is there anything I wish I knew when I was applying? Well, I guess I didn't actually do any co-op positions, and looking back, I really wish I did. So I would just take advantage of the co-op positions, learn what you're getting into. It's awesome stuff, and yeah, I just wish I did do some co-op stuff.
Yeah. How about you, Carl?
I think Evan made some good points. I think maybe the other one is just being open-minded and then taking sort of any opportunities that you have to learn something new, and not pigeonhole yourself because you took one or two classes in something at university. My degree is in geological engineering. Since working with Teck, I've worked in geotechnical engineering, drill and blast engineering. I've been a short-range planner in the mine planning side. Make sure that you broaden your horizons as much as you feel comfortable or is possible.
Great. All right.
Great advice from everybody.
Yeah. Perfect. Any other questions, Stacy?
There's nothing on the chat there, but a couple of questions that come to mind just from my interviews. I know a lot of students, especially from the geo side, ask about, is there like a challenging time for us to mine, like a time of year? Like, is winter really hard? Is the spring? And maybe speak to a little bit about why that is.
Yeah, so definitely the most challenging time is springtime when you have spring breakup. Actually, my favorite time to mine is in the winter when all the roads are frozen. In the summer, you get some pretty big potholes and dust. So yeah, personally, I do like mining in the winter time when everything's frozen. And then yes, when spring breakup, it gets super muddy, super wet, super dirty. Yeah, but as far as mining, it all happens no matter what the weather is. You're always out there getting it done.
Awesome. You want to add to that, Carl? Is that sort of similar for you?
It's very similar at Highland Valley. The most challenging time is definitely spring breakup, when the frost comes out of the ground and the road conditions are soft. And then probably second would be the fall rain and the transition into winter.
Yeah.
Summer is good, winter is good. The shoulder seasons give us a challenge.
Yeah, for sure. Awesome.
Looks like Elena has a question for you too. Is there a change in the way you do mine planning long term? I'm thinking of land reclamation, for example, and planning for that even during operation.
Carl, do you want to speak to that one?
Sure. Maybe just a couple things. The long-term planning piece around around the full life cycle of a project is getting just more and more important. So we do that. And what does that look like? It could be, how do we build a dump so that at the end of the mine life, we can re-slope that in a way that we can then revegetate it and it becomes a productive habitat for animals. Another project that is being looked at is, can we integrate a dump with a tailings dam and then remove the risk of it being a dam, because now it's got this huge amount of material as a dump, and turn it into a landform versus a dam. Definitely is just a much bigger part of how we look at a project than it used to be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I know a big part of it too is a lot about the water, planning for water and diverting water out of the pits, and they really have done a lot more work. I know from the coal perspective. Anyway, Evan, you may be able to speak to that, but really thinking about how water is going to run through those new pits and how we're going to manage that.
Yeah, I don't really have anything to do with the long-term planning, but I do know that water is a big one. We've always got pumps in different pits. We're pumping this pit water to this other location. We are starting with SRF, which is saturated rock fill, which is something we aren't doing right now at Line Creek. I believe Elkview is doing that right now. So yeah, there's a whole bunch of water stuff that's definitely popping up. Yeah, it's good to see.
Yeah, the saturated rock fill has been exciting. A new technology for us, which is great, and you can look that up, and we've got videos on it, which is great. It looks like we got another question in the chat, and maybe this one's more for Stacy. Are there opportunities to transfer to positions in South America?
Yeah, I guess there is. So what'll generally happen is we have had people transfer from different sites, or they'll go on secondment. It's definitely a process. So usually it's a little bit later into your EIT or into your, usually you have a professional designation, truthfully, by the time you get to that point. And it's a process in that, you have to learn Spanish. So you literally can learn Spanish for like a year prior to going down there. So it's a big investment from the company as well. And usually when you arrive, you have a translator. So their possibilities are there, but I don't know if it's usually a little bit later on the game, I guess.
Yeah, and with QB2 coming on board, there may be opportunities, and you never know. Like, we're going to be hiring a lot of people for our operation in Chile, and obviously for those who have fluent Spanish or from South America, are going to have those advantages. So yeah, we'll see how that all looks. Okay, I'm just because enough time. Just want to make sure that we get in the trivia. There is a question here, so maybe what I'll do is I'm gonna so maybe Stacy, if you want to read out the question for Evan, and I will get the pigeonhole up onto the screen.
So yeah, Evan, I think it's sort of a follow-up from previous when you chatted about you'd wish you maybe done a co-op. So the person's asking, what kind of experience aside from co-op or internships did you highlight on your application to be able to land a job with Teck?
Yeah, so I think the biggest one that I highlighted on my application is in Calgary. I did work at a lab. It was an oil sands lab. They got all the core from up north in Alberta. And they also did have another lab, and the other lab took all the coal samples from Teck coal. So I think that's what really stood out on my application. And the original job I actually get offered was just a temporary office position at the Calgary office. And then due to some staff shortages up at Cardinal River, they sent me up there in a temporary contract. And from there, that's where I got all my experience from. So it's just taking advantage of the opportunities you do get.
All right, so now we're back to us. Stacy, you want to help sort of
Sure, yeah, you're going to put up the co-op slide. So yeah, so I want to just speak a little bit about the upcoming term and then obviously future recruitment. So we have a slide here that's going to pop up, and it's talking a little bit about students that have worked for us. So similar to Finn, that had left here just this past summer, and they sort of had some quotes about their experience with us. So again, going back to, it means a lot more coming from the student than it does coming from me. I can speak about it until I'm blue in the face, and it definitely holds a lot of weight when you hear it from the students. So that's a little bit about their experiences with us as past summer and previous in the geo field specifically. And yeah, I wanted to speak to that. So right now we're currently recruiting for the upcoming term. We hire every 4 months with Teck. So at every 4 months, we get our requests and then put out our postings for the next upcoming term. So right now we're recruiting for January. In January, you'll see our postings for the upcoming May term, and so on and so forth. So we also have a summer student program as well, which potentially will be going obviously starting in May, and that's a 4 month. But the most of our co-op positions are for 8 months at least, if not sometimes 12, 16 months we've had students up for. So you'll see those postings up right now, and they're up for, I think, a few more days. And then you can also see them through your co-op office as well. If we have a relationship with your co-op office, you'll have the postings there. If not, you can certainly check the Teck website, and that's teck.com/careers, campus, and you'll take you to the campus landing page, and you'll see all the student positions posted there. I think right now for January, just to give you some insight from the geo side of things, I have a combination of some coal quality positions for coal, and then I also have some from a geological and geotechnical standpoint as well. So there's a bit of a combo. So you'll see one posting, I actually lumped them all together, and because I have one of my sites that sort of has a bit of an overlap with geology and geological engineering. So I sort of put them all in one posting, and then we sort of figure out where you're best suited. So just to give you some insight into the posting world, they tend to be a little bit general, but certainly put your name in the hat, and then we can sort of determine where you're the best fit.
All right, so before there's another question that's popped in. Before we jump to that, I just want to mention one thing. Well, thank you for joining. We're going to stick around for a couple of us are going to stick around for a little bit longer to answer any remaining questions. In the meantime, though, we have a feedback survey that we'd really appreciate you filling out. I did spam you this morning, and I include that link as well. So, but please fill that out so that we know, so that we can plan future campus coffees that will be relevant to students like you and your peers, as we hope to continue to provide insight into careers for young engineers and professionals. So with that, yeah, let's open it up to is it Elena's questions, the next one? Yeah.
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
Do you have any interest in professionals with experience? Maybe that'd be a Stacy question.
Sure, always, for sure. Yeah, so you'll see postings similar to what I answered before. Our postings are coming up all the time, literally from one day to the next. You'll see a whole group of postings come through. We're actually super active on the recruitment standpoint. So you'll see a lot of roles coming up. So just you can set yourself up for job alerts, and that would ping you sort of when a job comes up that's relevant to your experience. Or I would suggest keeping an eye on our postings as well, because sometimes the title of the posting might not be what you would expect. It might be technical marketing, but they're looking for a geo student or a geo professional, geological professional. So maybe just keep an eye on the website as well, but certainly set yourself up for job alerts.
All right. And if anybody needs to drop off, feel free to drop off the webinar. But like I said, we'll stick around for a little bit for any remaining questions. Oh, something just come in.
Awesome.
Oh, it's the thank you. Yeah, you're welcome, Lauren. Well, yeah, sorry. Yes, exactly. She's happy because she's your supply of caffeine.
Send us your resume, Lauren. I like the quick draw. Any other questions? Anybody? Again, you can put your hand up too, or unmute yourself. And
oh, thanks, Carl. That's great. Yeah, so Carl just posted the link to ICMM about I guess tailings and tailings management. Especially on like the upbeat tone. It's like first thing feels like a Monday obviously for us after a long weekend. But I appreciate you spending time with us. And well, I've got these guys here, but Carl, thank you, and Evan, it's been great.
Yeah. Awesome.
And you can tell your friends we are going to have these recordings up on our website at some point in the near future. So if you have friends who couldn't attend, just steer them to the Campus Coffee site, teck.com/campuscoffee. They can hear from Carl and Evan in the future. Well, I think we're down to just a handful of students just hanging around, so we could call it a day.